Hello, my name is Teddy Sparrow.
And I'm Blair, Brennan.
And today we are going to reflect on the Reformation of Ideologies by the Jin de Couleur within the Haitian Revolution. So throughout this podcast, we're going to analyze three separate causes: the treatment of slaves by the French within Saint-Domingue, or current-day Haiti, the French Revolution, and the overall enlightened ideology of the Haitian people.
All right, so a little bit of context for the Haitian Revolution. We see during the Age of Enlightenment, new ideals spread all across the Americas and Europe, and these ideas are completely challenging previous social norms. We're seeing philosophies of democracy, such as life, liberty, and equality, and this is bringing rise to social movements and Reformation. For example, we have Enlightenment thinkers like Voltaire and Rousseau in France, fighting for the abolition of slavery. And in tandem to this, we have the French Revolution as well. And this is all because of lack of universal rights. Now, when we flash forward to Saint-Domingue, we're seeing the same challenges that are faced based off of class structures and race. And in Saint-Domingue, the island was really a demography of enslaved Africans and wealthy French plantation owners. And this was a major economic contributor for the French, so their rights were kind of limited, and they didn't have the voice that they were allowed to, because in the French's eyes, they were really economic gain.
Thanks for covering the contextualization, Blair. So now we're going to dive into one of our causes of the Reformation of Ideologies by the Jin de Couleur and the Haitian Revolution, which is the treatment of slaves by the French. So the treatment of slaves in Haiti before the Revolution was characterized by extreme brutality and harsh conditions. Haiti, then known as Saint-Domingue, was a French colony and one of the wealthiest in the world due to its highly profitable sugar and coffee plantations. The Haitian economy relied heavily on these enslaved Africans who were forcibly brought to the colonies to work on said plantations. Slaves in Haiti endured dehumanizing and brutal treatment from their European masters. They were subject to harsh physical punishments, including whipping, mutilation, and other forms of violence. The plantation system was notorious for its cruelty, and slaves faced grueling working conditions with long hours in the field under the hot sun. Malnutrition, disease, and harsh living conditions were widespread, leading to high mortality rates among the enslaved population. The Code Noir, a set of laws issued by the French crown in the 17th century, regulated the treatment of slaves in the French colonies, including Saint-Domingue. While the Code Noir ostensibly aimed to provide some protection for slaves, in reality, it was often not enforced, and the conditions of the plantations remained harsh. So we're going to dive into the Code Noir a little bit, and the first article I wanted to look at was Article 2, which essentially says that all slaves that shall be in our island shall be baptized and instructed in the Roman, Catholic, and Apostolic faith. We enjoin the inhabitants who purchase newly arrived Negroes to inform the governor and intendant of said islands of this fact within no more than 8 days, or risk being fined an arbitrary amount. They shall give necessary orders to have them instructed and baptized within a suitable amount of time. This development by the French king, that's who the Code Noir was written by, specifically says that these slaves are now stripped of their freedom and of religion. So these all are going to be under the Catholic faith no matter what they say, and if not, they're essentially going to be dead and killed by the French. Next, we're going to take a peek at Article 16, which claims that we forbid slaves who belong to different masters from gathering, either during the day or at night, under the pretext of a wedding or other excuse, either at one of the master's houses or elsewhere, and especially not in major roads or isolated locations. So, stemming from this essentially means that these slaves are not allowed to talk to anyone. If they're separated from their husbands, wives, children, they can't talk to them. Especially, also, it's going to try an attempt by the French to limit the talking and the Reformation of ideologies and kind of sharing their alike experiences under the oppressive French. Looking elsewhere outside of the Code Noir, despite the oppressive conditions, enslaved individuals in Haiti resisted their enslavement through various means, including acts of sabotage, escape, and forming communities in the mountains known as maroon communities. These early forms of resistance laid the groundwork for the larger and more organized uprising that would later become the Haitian Revolution.
Yeah, that's like absolutely right. When we couple the Code Noir with the working conditions in Saint Domingue for these enslaved Africans, we really begin to see the justifications and, just unanimous hatred towards the French. Sugar was such a high-class commodity before, the French development of plantations in Saint Domingue really boomed. And then when they found out the climate was literally perfect for this, they were able to create such a supply of sugar, and it made it really this universal good. And these slaves were being worked so hard because of this, because it was so profitable. And this really is what made them hate the French, but not really the plantation owners as much as it was the French government who was facilitating all of this.
That is absolutely right. Also brought through the incoming wealth of the sugar plantations was sort of a social hierarchy developed within the colonies by the wealthy French going to be sitting at the top through all the income and wealth coming in, and these slaves at the bottom are just going to stay at the bottom and never move. With all this tension with the rising slaves in Saint-Domingue, why don't we talk about what's going on in France?
Yeah, let's not hide from the fact that while the French were dominating economically, they had a big problem on the home front. And this is the French Revolution. So prior to the Revolution, we see France being a major contributor in the American Revolution. And this is purely because France hated the British so much. And they were always competing, and they just wanted to humiliate them on a grand stage. Now when we go back to the home front, France is pretty much bankrupt, and we have all these questions over social classes and coupled with the Enlightenment, kind of how everything's going to unfold. And this leads to the formation of the Estates General, allowing commoners to have a voice. And from this, commoners organize themselves into a national assembly where they claim that they can make laws too. And this is where we're seeing some hints towards democracy in France. And this is what leads to the Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen. And this gives freedom and equal rights to all citizens of France, not just rights for the wealthy elite. So there's no more legal privileges, and it's an end of a feudalistic nature in France. Slavery is abolished. And now we're thinking, how can slavery be abolished in France, but not in one of its territories? And eventually this gets back to the slaves on the island, and it sets an example of a lower class revolution being successful. And it almost gives, aspirations to this desire of equity that they want on their island. And we see a lot of similarities in the treatment of French blacks and mulattoes and the Code Noir in Saint-Domingue.
So the French Revolution had a profound impact on the Haitian Revolution. It provided both inspiration and opportunity for the enslaved population of Saint-Domingue to rise against their oppressors. The revolutionary ideals of liberty and equality, which echoed through France during the late 18th century, was reverberated across the Atlantic and was able to found fertile ground in the hearts and minds of the enslaved in Haiti. As news of the transformative events in France reached the colony, enslaved individuals began to question the stark contrast between the lofty principles proclaimed by the French revolutionaries and their own brutal enslavement. The French Revolution's influence on Saint-Domingue was not limited to ideological inspiration. The revolutionary government in France, in pursuit of liberty, passed decrees that granted political rights to free people of color in the colonies. This was able to create tensions and power struggles within the racially divided society of Saint-Domingue. And as the concessions fell short of providing full equality and led to conflict between different groups. The complex and evolving political landscape in the colony, combined with the disruptive events of the French Revolution, was able to set the stage for the Haitian Revolution to unfold. So last but not least, we're going to dive into the third cause of the Reformation of ideology in the Haitian Revolution, which is kind of an overall enlightened ideology brought by some key figures within the Haitian Revolution. So the overall start of the Haitian Revolution was going to date back to August 14th, 1791, at a voodoo ceremony led by Boukman Doudi, who can be proclaimed as the starter of the Haitian Revolution. At the ceremony, angry slaves began to converse about their poor treatment of being a slave by the French oppression and essentially pondered about a revolution of their French oppressors.
Yeah, so we have these new Enlightenment ideals of liberty and equality that these Haitian slaves believe that they're more than capable of having, and that these preconceived notions that these rich white men in France have of them are not the reality of the situation. New Enlightenment thinkers like Toussaint Louverture, Southonox, and Simone Bolivar really set the catalyst for a new era in which science kind of backs advancement rather than these preconceived social structures. In the Les Revolutions de Paris, number 63, the document essentially says that the oppression of colored people in Europe and across the globe needs to come to an end, and that it's really been a product of these old notions that have held them back for years. And given the same opportunities as their white counterparts, they'll be able to excel just as much. And that's what these Haitian slaves are thinking too. Yeah.
I'm going to take a second to zoom in on two of the key figures in the Enlightenment period, which was Toussaint Louverture, who was a key figure in the Haitian Revolution and is considered one of the most important leaders in the fight for Haitian independence. The biggest thing about him is that he was born enslaved and in Saint-Domingue around 1743, where he was able to gain recognition for his exceptional leadership skills, military acumen, and strategic abilities. And the biggest thing from this is that he was enslaved in Saint-Domingue, so he is something common with all of the other slaves, and him being a big force on the revolutionary ideas kind of shows the other slaves that this guy was in a similar position as him, and he's tired of the oppression, that he's going to take a step forward. So he's a very easy leader for the Haitians to fall behind, which is why he became the main general who fought for the freedom of Haitian men and is a staple in Haitian history. Paired with that was the great Lahir Félicite Southena, who was essentially an abolitionist from France. He's a Frenchman, he's totally white, who helped give the Haitian slaves freedom through diplomacy. His influence on the French was huge since he picked to travel to the colonies and was a main reason the revolution was successful, since the previously enslaved Haitians were able to fight now. The reason we brought up these two figures is to essentially show that through their abolitionary movements, it kind of gave two strong leaders to root for and fall behind in terms of their ideologies. So enslaved people within Haiti are looking up to Toussaint Louverture and Southena as the main abolitionists who are fighting for their oppression and fighting to free them. And so people are slowly falling behind their general, realizing they want to fight for their oppression and they need to get out of this, and they're going to follow these two key figures, which is huge and change an overall shift in all of Haiti to stop the French oppression and get out of slavery.
Yeah, absolutely. And Louverture and Southena are really unique because at face value, you just take these guys to be, complete opposites, different guys on, racial spectrum. But when in reality, they're both, have the same aspirations, and that's just to liberate these Haitian slaves. And we see them join the charge in many ways, both being leaders to the resistance and even Sethenot, recruiting French blacks and Molitos to Saint Domingue to liberate them against the resistance. And in the grander scheme of things, these two played a really big role because it put pressure on other European nations to liberate their slaves, as revolution was prominent, and it was a reality of the time. So what these two Enlightenment thinkers did for promoting science, equality, and liberty for all reshaped social structures in Europe and in European territories, especially for the French, forever.
Overall, through these effects, you can kind of see how the Haitian Revolution is really one of a kind in the aspect that it's a global superpower as France itself, having an upvolt and a revolt by these slaves who seem to have no power and no control, taking over a global superpower in one of their most successful slave colonies.
Exactly, and I think that's why this whole situation is so unique, is because it's really the perfect storm culminating for this resistance. In the background, we have a whole entire movement of different thinking within the Enlightenment. We have a revolution going on in the home front of the territory who owns all these slaves, which creates almost a distraction, but an opportunity for these slaves to really understand the value of liberty and equality.
Overall, comparing the past to the present, we see that these effects did lead to the reformation of ideologies by the Jeune de Couleur and Saint Domingue, and kind of painted the picture for Haiti today, the revolutionary aspect, and France getting out of Haiti and that slave colony completely disappearing. Signing off.